Stoke-on-Trent billionaire John Caudwell is helping a Newcastle charity. The Tri-Services Veterans Centre needs to raise thousands of pounds to buy its building off Staffordshire County Council.
I said to them, look, what we'll do, we'll launch a fundraising scheme and I will match pound for pound. If we raise enough money, we'll look at even better premises where you can continue your work and do even more.
The County Council says it's allowed the charity more time to raise the funds. More on this with Paula White at breakfast.
Now, we've spoken to many ex-servicemen and women on the show over the years, and we've told you their inspirational stories. And they usually have one thing in common, that they got help from the Tri-Services Centre in Newcastle. Now the charity says it needs help, over £100,000 worth, or it'll have to find a new home. Producer Jack can tell you what's going on.
I was left with nothing, like 60p in my bank, and I just cried. I was like, what do I do?
Jackie Griggs, a single mum from Cheshire, turned to the team at the Tri-Services Centre in Newcastle, just one of thousands who've been helped by one of the armed forces charities based on the Hassell Street building.
They got me down within a day, made me an emergency food parcel.
Now Jackie's getting help with crippling debts. Her and her daughter Faith are happy.
It was more to do with, right, how can I make things better for my daughter? I need to make sure that we're okay and we're safe and we're fed.
The centre has been in Newcastle since 2015. It says it's helped over 10,000 people in that time and handed out hundreds of thousands of meals from its food bank. It also runs a rural retreat in Malcop.
Even though I'm not terminally ill, I do have stage 4. Once I'm in the woods and I'm doing the bushcraft, I'm teaching, I'm helping others, I don't even think about it anymore.
Coming up here is you can get away from everybody. You can do as much or as little as you're able to, but you also feel a part of a larger family.
Staffordshire County Council wants to sell the building for £120,000. The charity says it has until August to raise the money. Stoke-on-Trent billionaire John Caudwell says he'll match any money raised pound for pound.
They're just a very, very community-minded, charitable group of people that are working tirelessly for the good of the community, and they must be helped and they must be protected.
Now, Jeff Harriman is the chair of the Tri-Services Veterans Support Centre. He founded it 8 years ago and joins me this morning. Good morning, Jeff, my love. How are you?
Good morning, how are you?
I'm all right. You're fine and dandy. Got here quite safely, thank goodness, this morning. So, Jeff, Jack gave us a flavour there, but how much work do you do for veterans in the community there?
We're doing an immense amount of work for the veterans and the families in the Tri-Services. Just like to make one point that I didn't found the charity. It was a bunch of us that identified a need to set up the charity. So it wasn't me alone. It was a small group of us.
Apologies for that, Jeff. So, what sort of things do you do for the community? We heard examples there, but you know, in your words, what sort of things do you do hands-on?
We do lots of things. Lots of activities going on at the centre. Models for heroes, gamers. People just come in for a cup of tea and a chat, and that alone, it helps them relieve their isolation. For some, it's their only interaction with other people, you know, coming out of the house and coming to the centre, having a brew, having a chat, in a warm, friendly atmosphere, and that's fantastic, really. Well, also other agencies.
Like you say, just a simple thing like a cup of tea and a friendly face to sit and talk to is all it needs. How was it finding out that you could lose the building then, Jeff?
Well, what it was, because of the complexities of Staffordshire County Council and Newcastle-under-Lyme Council, we found out from Newcastle-under-Lyme Council that Staffordshire County Council intended to dispose of the building, and because of the technical issues rose around that we have now got 6 months to raise the required funds to stay in the building.
So if you raise the funds, you can stay exactly where you are.
If we feel the funding pay for it, then yes, we can. And the beauty of where we are, close to the bus station, it is accessible for everybody, and everybody knows where we are.
That's it. You where you are, you where you've been, and that's it. People get off the bus and they know exactly where they're going. So you need to raise £120,000. I mean, that's not, by any stretch, an easy task. How hopeful are you?
Well, it's one of those questions that how long's a piece of string, basically. We would like to think we were very hopeful. And again, it's a massive appeal to the general public, all the veterans of Staffordshire, particularly North Staffordshire. And it's absolutely overwhelming and fantastic that John Caudwell has also offered his help and support to match fund every pound that we raise. We have already started the campaign, so it's all hands on deck now.
Well, how did that come about? Because we heard in that piece that John said he will match pound for pound everything you rate. I mean, first of all, it must have been a relief when you heard that.
Oh, it was a massive relief. I think it all stems from way back in May when one of our fantastic supporters, Bert Turner, who was a Second World War Sterling bomber engineer, that he went down to the Bomber Command Memorial in London for a ceremony there, and himself and our Stafford caseworker Kathy Munslow, they met up with John Caudwell, and Bert opened his heart to John and saying, what a fantastic centre we have, and it's got to stay, and it's and I think John jumped onto that, and I think it touched John's heart, and Bert was a fantastic guy, and a lot of the guys that we've since lost, they've been tremendous. You know what I mean? It's and you can't replicate those sort of guys.
God bless him, good old Bert. If he'd not opened his mouth when he saw John, then he'd never known Mr. Caudwell wouldn't, would he?
Quite possibly, no, he wouldn't. And like I said, God bless Bert up there. He's looking down upon us, and he's securing his legacy for us, I think, basically.
Well, best of luck in the fundraising efforts. Do let us know how you're getting on, Jeff. That's Jeff Harriman from the Tri-Services Veterans Support Centre in Newcastle. Staffordshire County Council says it's been supporting the charity for 7 years. It's allowed them more time to raise the funds to buy the building, and it continues to support armed forces and their families across the county.